The vast chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with tension. Thousands of alien representatives from across the Milky Way sat in tiered rows, their eyes fixed on the central podium. At the heart of this grand arena stood Supreme Counselor Zixera, a towering figure with iridescent scales and 6 piercing eyes. "Order, we shall have order." Zixera's voice boomed, silencing the murmurs. The Council faces an unprecedented crisis. The human problem must be addressed. In the far corner of the chamber, Earth's ambassador, John Chen, felt a chill run down his spine. He knew this day would come, but not so soon. Humanity had only joined the galactic community 50 years ago, still infants in the cosmic scale. Zixera continued, her voice cold and clinical. Humans breed at an alarming rate. Their expansion threatens the balance we've maintained for millennia. They consume resources faster than any species we've encountered. John wanted to object, to defend his people, but Council protocol kept him silent. He could only watch and listen as the fate of humanity hung in the balance. "We've run simulations." A thin, gray-skinned alien spoke up. "If left unchecked, humans will overrun half the galaxy within 500 years. Their wars, their greed, they'll destroy everything we've built." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. John's heart sank. He had hoped for understanding, for a chance to show that humanity could change, could learn. Zixera raised a clawed hand, silencing the crowd. "We've debated for too long. A decision must be made. The Council's preservation protocol is clear. When a species threatens galactic stability, we must act." John couldn't believe his ears. The preservation protocol was a myth, a boogeyman story told to keep younger races in line. It couldn't be real. "The human population must be reduced," Zixera said, her words falling like hammer blows. "We propose immediate action against their youngest generation, swift, painless, and necessary for the greater good." The chamber erupted in shouts and cries. Some species cheered, others protested. John stood up, his face pale. "You can't. This is genocide," he shouted, breaking all protocol. Zixera's 6 eyes fixed on him. "Ambassador Chen, control yourself or be removed. This is not a debate. The Council has spoken." In that moment, John realized the true nature of the Galactic Council. It wasn't a place of unity and progress. It was a cold, calculating machine that saw his people as nothing more than a problem to be solved. As the Council voted, John's mind raced. He had to warn Earth, had to prepare them for what was coming. But how? All communications were monitored. Any ship leaving the Council space would be tracked. The vote was quick and brutal. With an overwhelming majority, the Council approved the measure. Billions of human children condemned with the bang of Zixera's gavel. "The decision is made," Zixera announced. "Operation Cradle Fall will commence immediately. All Council races are bound by oath to assist." John stumbled out of the chamber, his mind numb with shock and horror. In the corridors, he saw aliens from 100 worlds celebrating, clapping each other on the back. To them, this was a victory. To him, it was the end of everything. He found a quiet corner and sank to the floor, his head in his hands. How had it come to this? Humanity had dreamed of the stars for so long, imagining a grand adventure among alien races. Instead, they found themselves facing extinction. As the reality of the situation sank in, something changed in John. The shock gave way to a burning anger. The diplomats and politicians had failed. Now, it would be up to soldiers and fighters to save humanity. He stood up, his jaw set with determination. Somehow, he would get a message to Earth. He would warn them, prepare them. The Galactic Council thought humans were violent and dangerous. They had no idea what humanity was capable of when pushed to the brink. As he walked towards his quarters, John's mind was already plotting. The Council had made a terrible mistake. They thought this would be a simple extermination. Instead, they had just started a war that would engulf the entire galaxy. The Galactic Council had sown the wind. Now, they would reap the whirlwind. The streets of New York City were filled with the usual hustle and bustle of a warm spring day. Children laughed as they played in parks, their parents watching with fond smiles. None of them knew of the dark shadow looming over Earth. In a secret underground bunker, world leaders had gathered for an emergency meeting. The room was tense, filled with the grim faces of presidents, prime ministers, and military chiefs. At the center of the room stood John Chen, his face haggard from his desperate journey back to Earth. "Ladies and gentlemen," John began, his voice hoarse, "what I'm about to tell you will sound impossible. But I swear on my life, it's the truth." He recounted the Galactic Council's decision, each word falling like a bomb in the silent room. As he finished, President Maria Rodriguez of the United States stood up, her face pale. "How long do we have?" she asked. John shook his head. "Days, maybe hours. The council moves fast when it wants to." The room erupted into chaos. Some leaders shouted in disbelief, others wept openly. General Zhang of China slammed his fist on the table. "We must fight," he roared. "We cannot let these aliens murder our children." But how could they fight an enemy they couldn't even see? Earth's most advanced technology was like stone tools compared to the Galactic Council's weapons. As the arguments raged, a young aide burst into the room. "Mr. President," he gasped, "we're detecting massive energy signatures in orbit. Thousands of ships just appeared." The leaders rushed to the monitors. The screens showed a terrifying sight: a vast armada of alien ships surrounding the Earth like a net. "It's already started," John whispered. Suddenly, the bunker's communication system crackled to life. A cold, alien voice filled the room. "People of Earth," it said, "this is Supreme Counselor Zixera of the Galactic Council. Your species has been judged a threat to galactic stability. We regret to inform you that population control measures are now in effect." The voice continued, explaining the process in chilling detail. Children under the age of 12 would be removed. It would be painless, they were assured, for the greater good of the galaxy. President Rodriguez grabbed the microphone. "This is monstrous," she shouted. "We'll fight you with everything we have." Zixera's reply was calm, almost bored. "Your defiance is noted, but irrelevant. The process has already begun." Across the globe, reports started flooding in. Children were vanishing in flashes of light, from homes, schools, playgrounds. Parents screamed in horror as their kids disappeared before their eyes. In the bunker, the leaders of Earth watched helplessly. Their missiles couldn't reach the alien ships. Their pleas fell on deaf ears. John Chen stood in the corner, his fists clenched. He had warned them, but not soon enough. Not nearly soon enough. As the hours passed, the scale of the tragedy became clear. Millions of children gone in the blink of an eye. The world's population decimated in a single day. But as the initial shock wore off, something else began to spread across the planet. Rage. Pure, unfiltered rage. In cities around the world, mobs attacked anything alien. Embassies of council races were burned. Their diplomats hunted down. Military bases hummed with activity as every nation on Earth prepared for war. Old enemies became allies in the face of this cosmic threat. In Washington, D.C., President Rodriguez addressed the nation, her voice steel. "Today we have suffered an unimaginable loss," she said, "but we will not break. We will not bow. To the Galactic Council, I say this: you have awakened a sleeping giant. You will rue the day you underestimated humanity." As night fell on a changed Earth, John Chen looked up at the stars. The Council thought they had solved the human problem. Instead, they had created something far more dangerous, a humanity united in grief and fury, sworn to vengeance. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. The world had changed overnight. Cities that once buzzed with life now stood eerily quiet. Parks and schools, once filled with laughter, were empty and silent. The loss of Earth's children had left a wound so deep it seemed impossible to heal. In the heart of Geneva, a secret meeting was taking place. Leaders from every nation on Earth had gathered, united by grief and a burning desire for revenge. The room crackled with tension and barely contained rage. John Chen stood at the front, his face gaunt from sleepless nights. "We've confirmed the numbers," he said, his voice heavy. "Over 2 billion children. Gone." A collective gasp filled the room. The scale of the loss was almost too much to comprehend. But John continued, a fierce light in his eyes. "We're not beaten. Not by a long shot." He gestured to a group of scientists and military leaders. "For the past month, we've been working nonstop, and we've made some breakthroughs." Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a brilliant physicist, stepped forward. "We've reverse-engineered some of the alien tech left behind," she explained. "It's given us insights into their FTL drives and weapon systems." General Okonkwo of Nigeria nodded grimly. "We've already begun adapting our missiles and fighter jets. They won't catch us defenseless again." The room buzzed with excitement. For the first time since the tragedy, there was a glimmer of hope. But President Rodriguez raised a hand, silencing the crowd. "Even with these advancements, we're still outgunned. We need more than just weapons. We need a plan." That's when Maria Gonzalez, a young hacker from Argentina, spoke up. "I think I might have something," she said nervously. All eyes turned to her. Maria explained that she had managed to crack into some of the Galactic Council's lower-level communications networks. "They're not as secure as they think," she grinned. John's eyes widened. This changes everything," he breathed. Over the next few hours, a daring plan took shape. Earth would strike back, not with brute force, but with cunning and stealth. Step 1. Use the hacked networks to feed false information to the Council, making them think Earth was broken and defeated. Step 2. Secretly build a fleet of ships using the reverse-engineered tech, hidden in underground bases and the far side of the moon. Step 3. Train an elite force of soldiers and pilots, ready to take the fight to the stars. As the plan solidified, a new fire seemed to light in the eyes of every person in the room. This was more than revenge, it was justice. But there was one more crucial element. John Chen stood up, his face grim. "We need to send a message," he said, "not just to the Council, but to every race in the galaxy. They need to know what was done to us and why we fight." And so, as the meeting concluded, a powerful broadcast was prepared. It would be sent out on every frequency, in every language known to the galaxy. The message was simple but profound. To all sentient beings of the Milky Way, we are humanity. We came to the stars with hope and wonder, seeking friendship and knowledge. Instead, we found cruelty and genocide. The Galactic Council, in their arrogance, sought to cull our children. They believed this would break us, tame us. They were wrong. We do not seek dominion over others. We do not wish to conquer or destroy. But make no mistake, we will have justice. For every child taken from us, we will strike a blow against the Council's tyranny. To those races who stood by and let this happen, you are not innocent. Your silence was compliance. But to those who oppose the Council's cruelty, who believe in true justice and compassion, we extend a hand in alliance. Join us in our fight. Help us create a galaxy where no species need fear extinction at the whims of the powerful. The children of Earth cry out for vengeance, and we, the parents of humanity, answer their call. We are coming, and we will not be stopped. As the message beamed out into the cosmos, Earth prepared for war. The Galactic Council had sown the wind. Now, they would reap the whirlwind. 5 years had passed since the dark day of the culling. Earth had changed dramatically. Where once there were cities, now stood massive underground complexes. The surface was a decoy, a facade to fool the watchful eyes of the Galactic Council. Deep beneath the Himalayan mountains, the largest of these bases hummed with activity. This was Olympus Base, the heart of humanity's revenge plan. Here, scientists, soldiers, and strategists worked tirelessly to prepare for the coming war. In a vast hangar, John Chen stood before Earth's secret weapon, the Nemesis fleet. Sleek starships, built with a combination of reverse-engineered alien tech and human ingenuity, filled the cavernous space. Each ship was a testament to humanity's resilience and determination. "How many are we up to now?" John asked Admiral Lakshmi Patel, the fleet's commander. 500 ships, fully crewed and combat-ready," Lakshmi replied, pride evident in her voice. "Another 300 will be ready within the month." John nodded, a grim smile on his face. The council won't know what hit them. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the base. John and Lakshmi rushed to the command center, where screens showed a Galactic Council ship entering Earth's atmosphere. "Have we been discovered?" John asked, his heart racing. Maria Gonzalez, now head of Earth's Cyber Warfare Division, shook her head. "No, it's a routine inspection. But it's earlier than we expected." The tension in the room was palpable. If the Council discovered their preparations, all would be lost. "Activate Protocol Mirage," John ordered. Across the globe, a carefully orchestrated deception sprang into action. Holographic projectors created the illusion of decimated cities and a struggling population. Android decoys, indistinguishable from humans, played their roles as defeated survivors. The Council ship landed in what was once Central Park in New York. As alien inspectors disembarked, they were greeted by the sight of a broken world. Exactly what they expected to see. Back in Olympus Base, everyone held their breath as they watched the inspection unfold through hidden cameras. The aliens moved through the holographic city, scanning for any signs of resistance or unusual activity. Hours passed. Finally, the Council ship took off, seemingly satisfied with what they had seen. A collective sigh of relief echoed through the base. "That was too close," Lakshmi muttered. John nodded grimly. "We need to accelerate our timeline. We can't risk another inspection." The next few weeks were a flurry of activity. The final ships of the Nemesis fleet were rushed to completion. Soldiers underwent their last training simulations across the solar system. Hidden bases on Mars, Europa, and Titan prepared for the coming conflict. On the eve of their departure, John addressed the assembled fleet. Millions watched via secure feeds from bases around the world. "Tomorrow, we take the fight to the stars," he began, his voice strong and clear. "We go not just for vengeance, but for justice. Not just for our lost children, but for every species that has suffered under the Council's tyranny." He paused, looking out at the sea of determined faces. "We may be outnumbered, but we have something the Council can never understand. The strength that comes from fighting for those we love. Every one of us carries the memory of a child, a sister, a brother taken too soon. Let that fuel your resolve. The Council believes they broke us. Tomorrow, we show them how wrong they were. We are humanity. Resilient, resourceful, and now, righteous in our fury. The galaxy will remember this day. The day humanity rose from the ashes and brought the fight to the stars." A deafening cheer erupted from the crowd. The noise echoed through the hangar, a battle cry that seemed to shake the very mountains above them. As the cheers faded, final preparations began. Across the globe, hidden hangar doors opened. In the dark of night, Earth's secret fleet rose from their hidden bases. Undetected by Council sensors, the ships of the Nemesis fleet assembled in high orbit. As the first rays of dawn broke over the Earth, humanity's armada engaged their FTL drives. In a flash of light, they were gone. The war for justice had begun. The Nemesis fleet dropped out of FTL on the edge of the Arcturus system, home to one of the Galactic Council's major military bases. Alarms blared across the Council's monitoring stations as hundreds of unknown ships suddenly appeared on their scanners. Admiral Lakshmi Patel's voice crackled over the comm system. "All ships, battle formation Delta. Remember your training. Today, we strike our first blow for Earth. On the bridge of the flagship Vengeance, John Chen watched as the human fleet moved into position. His heart raced with a mix of anticipation and fear. This was the moment they had prepared for over 5 long years. The Council's response was swift but confused. They had believed Earth to be a broken, defenseless world. The sight of an advanced battle fleet bearing down on them threw their commanders into chaos. "Enemy ships launching," reported Maria Gonzalez from her station. "Looks like they're scrambling everything they've got." John nodded grimly. "Initiate Phase 1. Across the human fleet, specially designed electronic warfare modules powered up. Years of hacking and studying Council communications were about to pay off. A burst of carefully crafted signals shot out towards the approaching Council ships. The effect was immediate and devastating. Council ships began to veer off course, their systems thrown into disarray by the human cyber attack. Some ships crashed into each other, while others simply drifted, powerless. Phase 1 successful, Maria reported, a fierce grin on her face. Their fleet is in chaos. John allowed himself a small smile. Launch fighters, begin Phase 2. From the hangars of the Nemesis fleet, swarms of fighters emerged. These were unlike anything the Council had seen before, a perfect blend of Earth's best pilots and the most advanced technology humans could produce. The fighters tore through the disorganized Council formation, their advanced weapons ripping through alien shields like paper. On the larger Council ships, panicked aliens watched in horror as these small, agile craft systematically destroyed their weapons and engines. In the space around the Arcturus base, the tide of battle shifted dramatically. What the Council had expected to be a simple defense against a primitive species had turned into a rout. "Sir," called out one of the bridge officers, "we're detecting a transmission from the base. They're calling for reinforcements." John's eyes narrowed. "Jam their long-range communications. We can't let word of this attack spread, not yet." As the battle raged on, the human fleet pressed their advantage. The element of surprise, combined with years of careful planning and technological advancements, was proving devastating to the Council forces. Hours passed, and the outcome became clear. The Arcturus base, once a symbol of the Council's power, was now a burning wreck. The defending fleet had been all but annihilated. As the last Council ship fell silent, a cheer went up across the human fleet. They had done it. Their first major victory against the seemingly invincible Galactic Council. But John knew this was just the beginning. "All ships, prepare for immediate jump. We need to be gone before reinforcements arrive." As the fleet prepared to leave, John turned to Admiral Patel. "Send the message." Lakshmi nodded, understanding the gravity of the moment. With a few commands, a pre-recorded transmission began broadcasting from the ruins of the Arcturus base. The message played across every frequency used by the Council, to the Galactic Council and all races of the galaxy. "The attack you have witnessed was carried out by the forces of Earth. For too long, you have seen us as weak, as helpless. You took our children, believing we would break. Instead, we have risen, stronger and more determined than ever. This is only the beginning. We will not rest until justice is served, until those responsible for the genocide of our young face retribution. To those races who stood by and allowed this atrocity to happen, you have a choice. Stand with us against the Council's tyranny, or face the consequences of your inaction. Remember this day. Remember that humanity is coming, and we will not be stopped." As the message echoed across the stars, the Nemesis fleet engaged their FTL drives. In a flash of light, they vanished, leaving behind a scene of destruction and a galaxy in shock. The war had truly begun, and the Galactic Council was about to learn the true cost of their actions. The news of Earth's devastating attack on Arcturus spread through the galaxy like wildfire. The once mighty Galactic Council found itself in a state of panic. Emergency sessions were called. Fingers were pointed, and blame was cast. But the truth was undeniable. They had gravely underestimated humanity. In the following weeks, the Nemesis fleet struck again and again. Council outposts, supply lines, and military installations fell one after another. Each attack was swift, brutal, and meticulously planned. The humans seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. On the Galactic Council's capital world, Zenthra Prime, Supreme Counselor Zixera paced nervously in her chambers. The latest reports were grim. A third of the Council's military strength had been crippled. Several member races were threatening to withdraw from the Council, fearing human reprisal. How? Zixera hissed to her advisors. How did we not see this coming? Meanwhile, aboard the Vengeance, John Chen and his team were planning their next move. The ship's war room was abuzz with activity, holomaps showing the current state of the galaxy. Our hit-and-run tactics have been effective, Admiral Patul reported, but the Council is adapting. They're starting to predict our movements. John nodded grimly. Then it's time for Phase 3. Maria, what's the status of Operation Whisper? Maria Gonzalez grinned, her fingers dancing over her console. It's ready. We can activate the sleeper agents whenever you give the word. John took a deep breath. This was perhaps their riskiest move yet. Over the past 5 years, Earth had secretly planted hundreds of human agents throughout Council space. Some were deep cover operatives, others were AIs implanted in Council systems. All were waiting for the signal to cause chaos from within. Do it, John ordered. Across Council space, the carefully laid plan sprang into action. On dozens of worlds, human agents began sabotaging key installations. Council communications networks suddenly went dark. Defense grids failed. And in the confusion, encrypted messages began spreading through civilian channels. The messages told the truth about the Council's actions against Earth. They spoke of the billions of children murdered, of the Council's fear of human potential. Most importantly, they called for other races to join humanity in their fight against the Council's tyranny. The effect was electric. On world after world, populations rose up against their Council overlords. Races that had long chafed under Council rule saw their chance for freedom. The galaxy erupted into full-scale war. Back on Zenthra Prime, Zixera watched in horror as reports flooded in. It's not possible, she whispered. How could they have infiltrated us so deeply? But the Council's troubles were only beginning. As their attention was divided between the internal uprisings and the hit-and-run attacks of the Nemesis fleet, they failed to notice a massive buildup of ships at the edge of their space. This was the full might of Earth's military, thousands of ships that had been hidden and built in secret over the past 5 years. And they were not alone. Allies who had answered humanity's call for justice joined them, races who had suffered under the Council's rule, who had lost their own children to similar population control measures in the past. John Chen stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, watching as the massive fleet assembled. This was the moment they had been waiting for. The Council was in disarray, their forces scattered and weakened. It was time for the final push. All ships, this is Chen, he broadcast to the assembled fleet. For 5 years, we have carried the weight of our lost children. We have turned our grief into strength, our pain into purpose. Today, we bring the full force of that purpose down upon the Galactic Council. He paused, his voice thick with emotion. Remember why we fight. Remember the laughter silenced, the futures stolen. Today, we reclaim those futures. Today, we show the galaxy that humanity will not be broken. We will not be controlled. We will have justice. A thunderous cheer echoed across the comm channels. Across the massive fleet, engines flared to life. In a blinding flash of light, thousands of ships jumped to FTL, heading straight for the heart of Council space. The final battle for the fate of the galaxy had begun. The skies above Zenthra Prime burned with the fury of 1,000 suns. The combined fleet of Earth and its allies clashed with what remained of the Galactic Council's forces in a battle that would be remembered for millennia to come. Amidst the chaos, the Vengeance led a daring assault on the Council's central citadel. John Chen stood on the bridge, his face illuminated by the flashes of weapons fire outside the view screen. "All ships, push forward," he commanded. "We've come too far to falter now." The human fleet moved with a coordination that stunned their opponents. Years of training, fueled by righteous anger, made them a force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. On the planet's surface, Zix-Era and the remaining council members huddled in their emergency bunker. The Supreme Councilor's once proud demeanor had crumbled in the face of impending defeat. "We must surrender," one of the junior councilors pleaded. "We cannot win this fight." Zix-Era hissed in anger. "Never. We are the Galactic Council. We have ruled for millennia. We will not bow to these primitives." But her words rang hollow as the bunker shook with the impact of another bombardment. Back in space, a group of sleek fighters broke through the Council's defenses. Led by Maria Gonzalez, now a skilled pilot as well as a hacker, they streaked towards the planet's surface. "This is Whisper One," Maria called over the comm. "We're heading for the main power grid. Once it's down, their remaining defenses will be blind." John watched the fighters disappear into Zenthra Prime's atmosphere. "Godspeed, Maria," he whispered. The battle raged for hours. Slowly but surely, the Council's forces were pushed back. Ships that had once instilled fear across the galaxy now burned in Zenthra Prime's orbit. Suddenly, the planet below went dark. Maria and her team had succeeded. With the power grid down, the Council's remaining defenses fell silent. "All ships, this is Admiral Patel." Lakshmi's voice rang out. "The path to the Citadel is clear. Ground forces, begin your descent." Thousands of drop pods streaked through the atmosphere, carrying human soldiers and their allies. Among them was John Chen, leading from the front as he had since the beginning of this long war. As they landed in the sprawling capital city, John was struck by the silence. The once bustling metropolis was deserted, its inhabitants having fled or hidden in the face of the invasion. "Remember," John called to his troops as they advanced, "we're here for justice, not vengeance. Any council member who surrenders is to be taken alive." They fought their way through scattered resistance, pushing towards the central citadel. Finally, they reached the massive doors of the council chamber. With a nod from John, explosive charges were set. The doors blew open with a thunderous boom. As the smoke cleared, John led the charge into the chamber. There, cowering behind overturned tables, were the remaining members of the Galactic Council. Zix-Era stood, her once imperious demeanor now a mask of fear. "How?" she croaked. "How did you do this?" John stepped forward, his voice firm but controlled. "You thought you could break us by taking our children. Instead, you gave every human in the galaxy a reason to fight with everything they had. You united us in a way nothing else could have." He turned to address the entire room, aware that his words were being broadcast across the galaxy. "To the races of the Milky Way, I say this. The reign of the Galactic Council is over, but this is not the end. It's a new beginning." John's voice softened, filled with the weight of all that had been lost and all that could now be gained. "We've seen the horrors that come from one group deciding the fate of all others. We propose a new way forward, a galactic federation, where all voices are heard, where no race need fear extinction at the whims of another." He looked at each of the alien faces in the room, former enemies and new allies alike. "The road ahead will not be easy. We've all suffered, all lost. But if we can move forward together, we can build something greater than anything this galaxy has ever known." As John's words echoed across the stars, a new chapter in galactic history began. The war was over. The long, hard work of building peace could now begin. In that moment, on a distant Earth, in parks and schools once silent, a strange thing happened. For just a second, in the laughter of playing children, one could almost hear an echo of those who had been lost, as if they too were celebrating a future reborn.